Kingston testimony began today in the U.S. District Court of Utah here in Salt Lake City. Belize was mentioned, and the name of a former politician and minister was also mentioned. That person is Ralph Fonseca. What the prosecution attempted to do or tried doing is to establish how many meetings, where, and the timeline in terms of those meetings Lev Dermen had with Kingston and others. Again, just to point out that today's questioning only dealt to December 2012. The prosecution did not enter into 2013. So they spoke about only 2012 meetings, transactions, text messages sent back and forth, and so forth. Now, during his testimony, Jacob Kingston named Ralph Fonseca as the Minister of Finance, who had meeting with Lev Dermen and Kingston and others in Miami in December 2012. Now, viewers might be confused because it was in 2008 that the UDP got into power. So there is no way that Ralph Fonseca could have been the Minister of Finance then. Now, in terms of that reference that Kingston gave Ralph Fonseca, we're not sure how is it that he is naming Ralph Fonseca as the Minister of Finance for 2012. But he did say that he met Fonseca several times. He also told prosecutor that Zubar Kazi was part of that meeting. Now, Kingston also told the prosecutor that they had traveled to Belize several times to talk business, to talk potential projects here in Belize. And one of those projects was an online and physical casino. This is where Ralph Fonseca names again appears or is mentioned. He said that they made several trips to Belize in December and in October as well, and they met with Ralph Fonseca. Now, in terms of that online casino business plan and the physical casino business plan, they say that Kingston said that he bought a warehouse in Belize to house the physical casino and the online casino. Kingston told the prosecutor that, the prosecutor asked Kingston, who paid for that warehouse? Kingston said he paid for that warehouse. Kingston was asked, with which fund did you use to pay that warehouse? And he said that he used the monies from the tax credit fraud to pay for that warehouse. And he also mentioned, when asked, he also mentioned that the warehouse was under the name of Ralph Fonseca. So Ralph Fonseca name was mentioned late this evening before the court broke for the week.
So, good night, Hipolito. Of course, that's quite a bit of information after sitting in court for the past few days that we start to get some details coming out about Jacob Kingston and Lev Dermen's relationship with key players here in Belize. You clearly stated in the beginning that they're working on a timeline. So they went through his childhood, his college education, and now we're looking at 2012 specifically where this information is coming from. There is a specific mention of Miami meetings that took place as well, as and also trips to Belize. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yes, as I mentioned, through October to December 2012, Kingston spoke about trips to Miami and to Belize and meetings he had with Lev Dermen and other co-conspirators in this billion-dollar tax fraud here in the U.S. He mentioned in the meeting in Miami, such persons like Zubar Kazi was there, other associates he worked with in terms of this tax fraud, and as well Fonseca in that meeting. They spoke about projects in Belize. Now, in December, he mentioned that there were several trips he made to Belize along with Lev Dermen. He said that Lev Dermen invited him to travel to Belize to visit project sites and to talk about proposed projects. Now, the online casino and the physical casino was one of the projects they were looking at. They were also looking at fuel depot here in Belize, and they're also looking at to remodel one of the ports. They did not mention any port or any specific port, but there were the online casino and physical casino for which the warehouse was bought for, as well as the fuel depot, and as well as the remodeling of a port here in Belize.
But there wasn't any specific name given to these businesses, because I know we've had previous reports about Lions Gaming Company, which is registered in Belize, and that is a part of the documents and a part of the exhibits that should be presented in court. But what you've said is that it wasn't specifically mentioned that the online gambling business or casino is Lions Gaming.
Yeah, it wasn't specifically mentioned today, but like I said, the court broke to give jurors time to reach home because of the snow today as well. But the prosecutor mentioned that they will continue with Belize on Monday. But in terms of that Lions Gaming company, we know that there are email correspondences between one Amy Peterson to Jacob Kingston regarding banking application for this company in Belize. We do know that the word lion or the animal lion is favorite to Dermen. He's obsessed with this lion name or the animal. In fact, middle name, when he changed name here in Belize, is Aslan, which means lion in Turkish. And it was also revealed in court today that he was trying to set up a company for his son George in Singapore. And that company would have been named Singa, which means lion in Indonesia as well.
Clearly, he has a fascination there.
Yes.
But coming back to some of the other business interests and some of the individuals who were named in being able to, that was named in court, you spoke as well of former minister Ralph Fonseca, and also Kazi was mentioned as well, right? Have there been any other names that Belizeans mentioned thus far?
Yeah, in terms of Ralph Fonseca, it was also noted that Dermen and Kingston had dinner with Ralph Fonseca in Miami. They conducted business, or what he said, done business with Belize ministers. And I guess he was referring to Fonseca. In terms of Kazi, Zubar Kazi appears in a 2013 Auditor General's report as having received a fraudulent Belizean nationality. And I also believe that he received a Belizean passport as well. And I believe that he is a businessman here in Belize, operating a shrimp farm along the coastal road.
That's right. We did have a previous report looking at Zubar Kazi as the general manager of Paradise Shrimp Farm in the south, and also previous reports that came out in Utah about the Washakie Energy providing funds to the University of Utah that was then invested in Paradise Shrimp Farm for different studies to take place and also to look at wind and solar energy. But those connections weren't made in court today, right?
Yeah, those connections were made in court as yet, and we're hoping that the prosecution will delve more into those details on Monday.
Now, of course, Belize is still awaiting to hear whether or not the evidence in terms of the text messages between Jacob Kingston and John Saldivar will be presented in court and when it will be presented. What's the indication that you have right now, Hipolito?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the prosecutor today only focused on 2012, up to December 2012. And delve more into that. I believe that the prosecutor wants to know how these monies were used in terms of Kingston. Because one of the most crucial part of what came up today is that Kingston revealed that the monies acquired through this fraud were used to buy a warehouse, which was, according to Kingston, under the name of Ralph Fonseca. That's a big liability there, because they use monies resulted from this fraud.
Yeah, the proceeds of the fraud. Yeah.
Yes.
And
now,
I was going to ask if you can share with us just in the way you have been seeing the line of questioning so far, talking about what took place specifically in Belize, and I know in Turkey as well. This is a part of the case, the tax fraud case, in looking at how the money was potentially laundered. Is that what you understand it?
Yes, that is exactly what I understand coming up from today. That they're establish how is it that Kingston and Lev Dermen use this money in Belize and in Turkey. So we're trying to see what will come out on Monday, because they were moving into 2013, where Lev Dermen was more involved. I know that it has been reported that Francis Fonseca, this is not the first time Ralph name has name in terms of this entire case. We know that during the Prime Minister's press conference, it did indicated that Ralph Fonseca introduce Lev Dermen as a businessman, we know that Michael Perfit has gone on record to say that he casually met Dermen through his very good friend, if I may quote, the Honorable Ralph Fonseca. He's saying Dermen as a person interested in doing business in Belize. But this is 2012. The prosecution will move into 2013 on Monday and see how far Dermen's tentacle penetrated Belize and the government. And I guess everyone in Belize is waiting for that text message revelation. Again, we have to wait on the line of questioning from the prosecution in terms of at what timeline they'll move on to those text messages.
Yes, so clearly court ended today when things started to get a bit more interesting in terms of information regarding Belize, huh?
Yes, yes. Prematurely, I may say.
All right, but of course, tomorrow there won't be any court. So
yeah, tomorrow there's no court. Court resumes at 9 o'clock on Monday. There will be 10 o'clock Belize time on Monday, and they will proceed as what the prosecutor had indicated with Belize and Turkey. And again, we're hoping that they will delve into how these monies were spent, and the connection between Lev Dermen, Jacob Kingston, and how they communicated, which is one of the things I want to talk about now, Marlene. They talk about text messages. They talk about burner phones. How is it that Kingston and Dermen communicated? It was only through FaceTime and text messages, and it was through burner phones. Now, burner phones are just temp phones. You use it once or twice, and you get rid of it. You destroy it. And according to Kingston, Dermen said that it's better to use burner phones because the government could not track them. And after they're done using that specific burner phone, they destroy it. So it's making it even more difficult for the US government to track them. So I guess they're laying the foundation in terms of communication between Kingston and Dermen and anybody else who came in contact with these two individuals.
Okay. Well, Hipolito, thank you for your reports this week. And of course, we will pick this back up on Monday with the subsequent follow-up with the case on Monday.